A couple nights ago was New Year's Eve. I hope all of you had a great celebration. Welcome to 2023. I was in Times Square, and we were celebrating, of course, the New Year, but we also purchased these large billboards, which I'll pull up for you right here, actually. You can see we've got, it's a similar run to what we did earlier in the year, but this time we added the big one way up top. It was really cool. The funny thing is, the one billboard that was shown on TV, I think the most, was Ian, because the way they had the cameras set up, the pan and everything, you could see it sweeping down the block with Ian right here on the right side. You could see some of the Timcast logos, but the camera never showed the top of the North Tower because they were filming from the top of the North Tower or somewhere around there. So we were there, and I filmed this video. Thanks to everybody for the warm wishes and things like that. While we were there was some point in the night, we were at the Hard Rock Cafe. There was a party there, and so you're in a building. You're not crammed in the Times Square. Let me slow down. For the average person who buys a ticket to Times Square, they lock you in a pen for hours. You can't leave. You can't go to the bathroom. You just got to stand there until the ball drops. It's you can't come back in. It's the craziest thing. But we were in this private party area, and you're allowed to sort of walk outside. Now, the cops were yelling at us when we did. But we actually got to walk around the fire lane perimeter before everything got started. It was pretty cool. And then during the event, I heard a strange noise. And it sounded like a lightning strike or something. And, rain was coming. So we were kind of like, what was that? What was that strange noise? As it turns out, it was a jihadi attack on the NYPD. A machete-wielding attacker struck a cop in the head with the machete, slicing, I think I heard another cop and then maybe a bystander, and then he got shot in the shoulder. This is the big news to kick off the new year. I mean, this happened just before the new year, and it's kind of weird. It's like, hey, it's like a throwback. It's like we haven't had a lot of stories about jihadi attacks for a little while. It's kind of crazy to think that this is still happening, but it is. Now, this segment isn't going to be entirely about this attack, but I thought this was it's a big story. But there are a whole bunch of stories that I've been looking at that bring us into the new year, particularly how new laws are going into effect, what this means, and whether or not we're going to have a more violent 2023 than 2022, or I don't know, will things calm down? So there's a handful of stories I want to go through as we enter this new year and then kick things off. So there I was, standing in Times Square, celebrating. We hear this loud bang of some sort. It was crazy. It was crazy because we were on the south end. We were right at the South Tower, and we heard this noise. It echoes. I mean, there's buildings everywhere. They shot the guy, and we had no idea what it was. I saw Matt Binder. He's a lefty progressive guy we had on the show before, and he said that he was near there, posted some photos, and then I asked him what happened. Sure enough, we heard this. It's a scary thought because we got to take security very, very seriously with everything that's been going on. And, throughout the holidays, we're traveling a lot and talking to family members, and the concerns are real that the dramatic escalation is coming. And so, yeah, we've got some dramatic escalation. I don't know if this jihadi stuff is it, but let me read you the story, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's happening this year, because we've got a bunch of new laws kicking into effect. And one big story, which I think is going to play a role in terms of potential violence. I'm not saying this guy's going to do it, but there's a man in Texas whose son was taken from him by his wife, who wants to medically transition his son, brings the kid to California. He files with the court saying, like, don't let her do that because California is passing a law that will, it's like a sanctuary genital mutilation state. And the Texas Supreme Court said, too bad. So they're basically just saying, okay, now my question is, as we enter this new year with quite literally a bang, violent extremism, where do we go? I don't think jihadi militant extremism is the way we're going to go. Honestly, I don't know what this is or why this happened. Crazy people do crazy things, but this is not the most prominent kind of political turmoil that we're seeing. When I look at these other stories, and again, I'm not saying this kid's dad is going to do anything. I'm saying, man, I talked about two big things last year: abortion and child mutilation. medical mutilation and surgical. And, well, here's the point I made. Texas and California, Texas and Colorado, these are the examples that I gave. Texas passes laws. You can't get an abortion. You can't give a kid a sex change. What happens when someone takes that kid out of state? Then what? So in the instance of abortion, what I was saying was, let's say there's a guy and a woman, and they hook up. They're in a relationship. Woman gets pregnant. Woman decides, you know what? I don't want to do this. I don't want to have a kid with this guy. So she says, well, I can't get an abortion in Texas. So she goes to Colorado where there's no limits. This man living in Texas, what is he going to do? Is he going to be like, well, she just took my unborn. Let's say the kid is 8 months. Woman's 8 months pregnant. That kid is viable and can be delivered, can be C-section, whatever. She's going to terminate it. Is this guy just going to be like, well, the baby didn't cross the threshold yet, so guess it dies? The two scenarios. A woman gives birth at 8 months, premature, rushes the baby to Colorado. Another woman is about to give birth, rushes the baby to Colorado. Or, about to give birth like it's expected, not like she's actually in labor or anything. And so now you have babies that are gestating at the exact same amount of time, have been alive for the exact same amount of time. This guy in Texas, what's he going to do? So, oh no, the police aren't going to do anything. The other scenario is child transition. A father is told that his son will have his testicles removed and be chemically castrated or be chemically castrated. And then what does he do? What does Texas do? I believe that Texas will likely sit back and say, we're not getting involved. The person left. But there's a question of, well, hold on. If someone kidnaps a kid from Texas, is Texas going to do anything about it? Well, technically, I guess the answer is no. They won't leave their own jurisdiction. Let's say you kidnap a kid and go to California. California is going to be like, well, kidnapping is illegal, so they'll help. But what happens if California says, no, you kidnap the kid and you're going to mutilate him? That's fine. Then what happens? This is my question about 2023 when we see these stories. Let's talk about what happened in Times Square real quick. NYC machete attacker expressed militant support for Islam, may have expected to die. The suspect hospitalized after NYPD officer opened fire in defense expressed expressed pro-jihadist views overnight and possessed terrorist propaganda. The latest news, I guess, this is the wrong story here. Wait, what? Okay, here we go. FBI raid main home of all-American Jihadi, Times Square terrorist 19, arrested with chilling manifesto, loved the NFL and dreamed of being a soldier before converting to Islam after dad's death. Trevor Bickford, 19 of Maine, is accused of slashing 2 NYPD cops on Saturday. The alleged Islamic extremist is believed to become radicalized in recent years. Bickford appeared to have been a typical teen in Wells, Maine, who made the honor roll, won awards for his artwork, played football, and marched with color guard. It's believed he became a radicalized Muslim after his father died of an overdose. Bickford allegedly took an Amtrak to New York City, slashed 2 cops with a machete. Another cop shot him, who now remains hospitalized. Charges are pending. Now, why this? His dad died of an overdose. Opioids, I'm assuming, obviously. Like, what else do you overdose on, I guess? So what's happening? Why is he converting to Islam in the wake of something like this? I mean, the opioid crisis is getting a lot of people on Trump's side, or got a lot of people on Trump's side, because he was talking very much about the opioid crisis. Why Islam? I'm not so sure that it matters what his reason was, to be completely honest. I think it matters that we pay attention to this stuff, and we pay attention to extremism in general. I don't care what the political or religious element is. People should not be doing things like this. But I think the more important issue is people are going crazy. That's it. There's a viral video out of I think it's a Waffle House. People are screaming and fighting. And there's this woman working, this small blonde woman. A black woman throws a chair, and the white woman catches it and then, deflects it. They've been fighting the whole time. And someone asked on Twitter, why are we seeing so much of this happen? And the simple response is because people have cell phones. That's it. But I'm not so sure, to be completely honest. Seriously, I'm not so sure. I've seen a handful of fights break out in my life, but more of them have been happening in the past few years. I've been at protests. I've been at riots. The most extreme and egregious riots have been in the past few years. I was in Chicago over the holidays. We went to Dundee, Illinois. And this is something that was really crazy to me. I went to a bar and they had slot machines at a bar in Illinois. Now look, where I'm at in West Virginia, they got slot machines everywhere, but these are old slot machines, old and new. The newer slot machines, a lot of fun. I like playing the Monopoly game. You know, the music plays and the people are dancing, and it's just like buying scratchers though, so it's not like you're actually playing anything. You're just picking scratchers. But in Chicago, to see slot machines at a bar was shocking to me. And I was talking to my girlfriend, and I was like, "Isn't this kind of weird? Like this is Chicagoland area. Like it was hard to gamble there. They have the Riverboat Casino. I think it's like Harrah's." And it's built on water because the law was that you could only have a casino if it was on the water because it was grandfathered in, but they outlawed it. And you got rivers. I mean, it's not like there's no casinos or whatever. But it was just like gambling was not a really, really big thing. Now, to see it in a bar. And I thought, isn't widespread gambling a sign of social or societal collapse? I think it is. And I think it is because what it shows is that it's kind of like the rat. That experiment where they took the dopamine thing and put it on the mouse's brain, and the mouse could, or the rat or whatever, could press the button to trigger a dopamine release in its brain. And then eventually it just started mashing the button, didn't care about anything else. It was like, nothing matters, just press the button, dopamine, yeah. That's kind of what it feels like when you see these slot machines everywhere. It used to be that the dopamine would be released because we were working towards a common goal, and we would feel satisfaction from after getting approval from other humans. So if we're living in a society, we have a common goal. We want to go to the moon, things like that. We feel good when we work towards that goal. When we're in high school, we want to fit in. We feel good when we do. Now we have video games. Video games trigger dopamine release. So what are people even feeling good about these days? It's certainly not working together as a society, working together as a community. It's just trigger that dopamine. Not to mention that communities are fractured. So let's talk about this. Let me show you a few stories. New York governor legalizes human composting after death. The sixth state to do it. That does not bode well for us, I guess. We have this story. Trans woman, 24, stabbed her parents to death. I should say it is a male. Stabbed his parents to death in 2016 after they refused to accept transition is moved to medium-risk mixed-gender Maine prison where she's being housed with them. And this is we got to stop. Look, I don't care about your pronouns. What I care about is accurately conveying information. And when they phrase it this way, people don't understand. So let's put it this way: biological male, who is trans, stabbed the biological male stabbed his parents to death. They refused to accept transition, and this male is now being housed with females. That's very important. We have this story. Texas Supreme Court rules against father seeking to prevent chemical castration of his son. The Supreme Court of Texas denied my mandamus, effectively terminating my parental rights. My children are now subject to being chemically castrated in California. Texas is an empire of child abuse led by Texas judges. Yeah. Where do I see all this stuff going? Well, let me show you a little bit here. Technofog says, the law is much darker than they let on. California is now a sanctuary state for those charged with mutilating children. Section 9, 819, subsection B. California law enforcement agencies shall not knowingly make or participate in the arrest or participate in any extradition of an individual pursuant to an out-of-state arrest warrant for violation of another state's laws against providing, receiving, or allowing a child to receive gender-affirming health care. My friends, can I just say the words? Civil war? And I will stress it again. I don't know if that means a bunch of states lining up against a bunch of states. I don't know if that means the National Guard being brought in or the Army or the Insurrection Act. I'm just saying, when you have a state that outright says they are a sanctuary against federal laws for drugs, for immigration, and for child genital mutilation and chemical castration, how is that state a part of the union at all? There's a federal government. Federal government has laws. First Civil War kicks off because, several states tried to secede. Then you get the federal government. You can't see that's illegal. You can't do it. Ulysses S. Grant wrote that the Union paid for the admittance of these states with their blood and treasure. I love how they used to phrase that, treasure, like my treasure. And it was illegal. And the question was, you can't just leave the Union because you don't like the laws of the federal government. I mean, that was a big component of it. You effectively had southern states saying outright, and it's a complicated process. Like, I'm not going to pretend, again, to be like an expert on the first Civil War. The first. Notice how, differentiate there. It wasn't so much that the southern states feared the banning of slavery. They wanted it to expand, and the Union basically was moving towards not allowing it. As new states were being admitted, they were like, look, we're not going to have new slave states. And so the Emancipation Proclamation explicitly ended slavery only in rebellion states, meaning I think there were, like 4 Union states that were slave states that were told they could keep their slaves. Just those southern rebellion states were going to lose them. A long story short, a big component of the Civil War is if the laws of the federal government are not being upheld and they're only being enforced against us, how is this a union at all? That's a big component. So I'll give you an example. Merrick Garland's AG arresting pro-lifers, not arresting people protesting at judges' homes. Ray Epps' transcripts. Now, I'm not going to get too much into this, but people sharing these transcripts where he says that he orchestrated January 6th. Federal government lets him go. And this is the point. This is what foments civil war. Whether we get there or not, I don't know. I think we're in a 5th generational war already. But whether it goes hot conflict, I don't know. The fact that California is outright saying now, if a parent kidnaps their child, think about what this means. There are many instances where I think parents tend to be the primary kidnappers of kids. You got mom and dad fighting over custody. One of the parents takes the kids, flees because they don't want to lose custody. Kidnapping. And it's the parent. So you're all like, how's that a kidnapping? It's like, well, because they're taking away from the kid from their home, from the other parent. So let's say someone runs to California for that reason. And then the state says, well, you kidnapped that kid. You got to return him. That's illegal. Well, hold on. What if the parent takes the kid, kidnaps the kid, gets to California, and then when confronted, they say, it's because my kid is trans. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, no, we can't get involved in that anymore. So they say an extradition of an individual pursuant to an out-of-state arrest warrant for violation of another state's law providing, receiving, or allowing a child to receive gender-affirming health care. Well, let's think about this. Is California going to say, no, the kidnapping is legitimate? Sorry. You can give the kid the transgender surgery, but then you're going to get arrested for kidnapping. I don't see how that works. I don't see how that flies. I don't see how California entertains that. I don't want to just talk about this. We've got a lot going on, a lot changing. People can now carry guns without a license in half of America's states. I just want to give a shout out to Rogan and Jamie over at the Joe Rogan Experience. Last time I was on the show, just over it was a year and a few months ago, I mentioned that majority of the country was now permitless open carry, and was I think it was most of the country was now constitutional carry. At the time, it was that 26 states had passed constitutional carry. I think 2 states hadn't yet enacted it. And Joe told me, he's like, no way that can be true. So he told Jamie to Google it. Jamie Googles it, and it said 13. And I was like, oh, I guess I must have been wrong. That's weird. No, I was right. The source they pulled up was wrong, and my source was right. So these have now gone into effect, and now I believe 25 states are official, but it's like something like 30 some odd states where you can open carry without a permit. Open. So this is it says people cannot carry guns without a license in half American states. They're talking about I'm pretty sure concealed. Or no, maybe that's open carry. I could be wrong, but I think constitutional carry. Let's see. No. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, I want to be careful here. I think constitutional carry is like half the country. That's concealed carry. Permitless open carry, I think, is the majority of the country, meaning you can buy a rifle. Handguns are different, but in most of the country, you can buy a rifle, sling it over your shoulder, and walk around with it. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I'm just saying we got a lot of changes coming. A lot of crazy things are happening. This year is going to be interesting because it's primary season. Donald Trump, maybe he runs third party if he doesn't win the nomination from the GOP. I don't know. It's feeling like it's going to be DeSantis, but far be it from me to make those predictions. I just got no idea. What I can say is it's kind of crazy to me that I'm standing at Times Square and I hear this bang. It was crazy. Maybe the bang was something different. I don't know. We were far away, but sound travels, man. Heard a weird crack. And it was probably the gunshot ricocheting off the buildings, traveling, Maybe it was something different. Maybe someone dropped something on the scaffold. I have no idea. But it happened right around the time that gunshot went off. And so we were concerned about it. We actually asked after that happened, should we leave? And I was like, I don't know, man. Kind of feel like there's no safer place to be. We were in the Hard Rock. We were in the basement eating, just chilling. And I'm like, maybe something happens outside, but I really doubt it. They're screening everybody. This attack happened outside of Times Square. But it's crazy that right before the year starts, we get something like that happen, and I'm standing there. It's a crazy experience. And to see these stories. There's a bunch of other news. There's Andrew Tate getting arrested. We'll talk about that. Welcome to 2023, my friends. It's already off with a bang, quite literally. So we'll see how things roll out. But I got a feeling that, everything I see indicates societal breakdown. And that's why a big thing for me is societal building. I don't want to say restoration. I posted photos actually, over on Instagram.
Up top.
Here we go. Posted a photo here. This is, it's actually, there's way more done so far. This is the new studio, the new facility we're building. We're going to be launching a skate show, skateboarding. But we're going to do a lot of everything in it. We're going to have bikes and scooters and blades and everything else. But probably heavily skateboarding. We got a new cafe we're setting up in West Virginia. Big building. It's going to be really awesome. Because for me, I'm like, watching these slot machines pop up all over the place. If we chase that addiction, that path of least resistance, society crumbles. We become the rats smashing the dopamine machines. We become angry, dejected. People lose their minds. So what do we need? We need a place for people to hang out. We need people to feel pride and satisfaction from each other. So that's what I'm trying to build. I'm sorry, that's what I am building. Become a member at timcast.com. Kick off the new year. Support our work. I got more photos we'll be posting soon. We went and checked this out the other day. I'm really excited for this. Video games, movies, skating, new show, new skate show, new studio for Timcast IRL, and physical locations. I want to open a handful of coffee shops where you walk in and you'll see Timcast IRL playing on the TVs. You'll see Viva Fry. You'll see Crowder. You'll see that kind of content. So regular people will walk down the street and say, I'll get a coffee, and they'll walk in, and that's what's playing on the TVs. That, to me, sounds like a good idea. People will do special events. I call them Saturday morning cartoons, where people can come in and hang out with each other. We want to create goal-oriented community events where people can feel that dopamine release from interacting with each other, building community. Because right now it feels like it's all breaking apart. Welcome to 2023, my friends. Let's get this year off to a good start. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.